going to be continuing our Cornell notes for this unit. If you remember, we started them way back when, right, with cell cycle, and we didn't process them. We just held them in our journal. We wrapped up photosynthesis last week, and today we're going to take our notes over cellular respiration. This will be, if we can get through it, it'll be our last day of notes for the entire 6 weeks, and then we'll spend the next week and a half to 2 weeks doing our steps with those notes until we get to the point of writing our summary. Thumbs up if you understand. Yes, ma'am? All right. So on your Cornell note template, you can pick up with the notes you have in your front pocket. So we're adding to the notes that already exist. I had you grab another sheet of paper because the odds are you're going to need it at some point during class today. So if you want to go ahead and take those notes out of the front pocket of your journal where you've been holding them for safekeeping, we're going to pick up where we left off. So in your left-hand column, new heading, new ink, you're going to write this heading, which I don't know if y'all can see that well. It's cellular respiration. Cellular respiration. You're going to put that in your left-hand column. So last week we talked about how photosynthesis needs carbon dioxide, right? It needs water. It needs sunshine. It takes place as a chemical reaction in the chloroplasts. Who remembers what it makes? What are its products? Food, yes. In what form? A sugar. Who knows? Yes, very good. The sugar's name is glucose. Okay. There is one more product of photosynthesis that's really important for us. Who remembers what it is?
How we breathe.
Yeah. So it takes in carbon dioxide, which will kill us if there's too much. And then it breathes out oxygen.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, so in your Cornell notes, I want you to say, this is now on the right-hand side, that there are two types. The first is aerobic, requires oxygen. It yields more ATP. And the second is anaerobic, does not require oxygen, yields less ATP. And then in your notes, I want you to put that they occur in mitochondria. Guys, where did photosynthesis occur? What organelle? The chloroplast. Very good.
7 tickets.
So you've got photosynthesis in the chloroplast. And you've got cellular respiration in the mitochondria. What type of cell is going to have a chloroplast? Plant, right? Yep. And then our animal cells are going to have these mitochondria. So you can see that we've got these two systems happening in plants. And now what we're discussing is happening in animals. Give me a fist of 5. Couple of ones, okay. I don't know how many there are. Are you ready? Hey, where's your glasses? All right, here we go. I'm about to move on. We are still under cellular respiration. You are not changing your heading. We're still on the right-hand side. This is the chemical equation. I want you to write it. It is C6H12O6. Wait a minute. Where have we seen that before?
I wonder.
Who knows what what part of the photosynthesis equation is that? Do y'all remember? This is the glucose. There's that sugar that those plants just made. Now look at the second, you're writing this down. Look at the second reactant. C6H12O6 plus what? Plus oxygen. Wait a minute. What did the plants just make?
Oxygen.
They just made sugar and oxygen, which is what we need to have cellular respiration. So we're taking in the products of photosynthesis. Those are the reactants of cellular respiration. Now look on the other side of my yield. What then do we make as our products? That's carbon dioxide, right? Wait a minute. Didn't plants need that in order to have photosynthesis, right? And then what else do we make? What's the second product there? Water. Holy heckin' heck, y'all. Right? So we need sugar and we need oxygen. They need carbon dioxide and water. Do you see how photosynthesis and cellular respiration are supporting each other in their cycles? If one cycle broke, what would happen to the other? It would also break. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't that make us like a virus to both of them?
No. So you're going to learn later. There are certain relationships on Earth that are considered, there's like mutualism, commensalism. They're just symbiotic relationships. I don't know that anybody would call this a symbiotic relationship, but it is a dependence. It's an interdependence, which when you really get to studying biology, you're going to find more and more throughout ecosystems and organisms. Everything is interconnected. Yes?
So basically, if we just stop, we're killing our Earth, basically.
If we stop breathing, if all animals stopped breathing, yes, it would be bad. Okay. All right. So just like the screen says, hopefully you've written down this equation now. Just like the screen says, I want you to take note that this is the exact same as photosynthesis, except it's reversed. So it's the opposite of what's happening in photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, my reactants are carbon dioxide and water, and my products are glucose and oxygen. And then we flip it, reverse it for cellular respiration. Now, my reactants are glucose and oxygen, and my products are carbon dioxide and water. So just a quick review, guys. This should be from 8th grade. Everything on this side, what do we call them? Yep. And yep, everything here are the products. What's the arrow's name?
Yield.
Yep, that's my yield.
That's 9 tables.
So I don't like to remember words. Remember, I'm the queen of lazy. So I remember that RYP. Reactant yield product. RIP. All right, fist of 5. How are we doing on that? Couple of people writing. That's okay. All right, I've got to move on. So, left-hand column, new heading, new ink. I want you to put 3 stages of aerobic respiration. That's your heading on the left-hand side. 3 stages of aerobic respiration. The first stage is glycolysis. Sugar broken down in cytoplasm yields 2 ATP. It happens in cytoplasm. Glycolysis, sugar broken in cytoplasm yields 2 ATP. You actually don't have to write this. That's redundant. This stage, because of the way it works, it actually does not require oxygen. But if no oxygen, the cycle stops here. And this is going to happen in all organisms, both autotrophs and heterotrophs. Who remembers from the other day, what are autotrophs?
Wait, so what do we write?
Only what's highlighted. Autotrophs make their own what? They make their own food, right? So it's going to be our plants, isn't it? And heterotrophs have to get their energy from others. So they have to eat their food. So 3 stages of aerobic respiration. First is glycolysis. Sugar broken in cytoplasm yields 2 ATP. Does not require oxygen, but if no oxygen, it does stop here. You're going to see if the oxygen is present, we will continue on to other steps. Me a fist of 5, how are we doing? Got a couple of 2s, so I'll hang tight. All right, moving on. Now we're at steps 2 and 3. I can't stand all the the animations. Okay, so you're still on the right-hand side, and you're going to put 2 and 3, Krebs cycle and electron transport chain. These require oxygen. They take place in the mitochondria. ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate, is converted to ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. When I look at step 2 and 3, 2 cycles together produce 34 ATP. How many did I produce in step 1? Do y'all remember? Look at your notes. How many ATP did step 1 produce?
2.
Very good. So those 2 plus the 34 I just made, total of all 3 steps, I'm going to end up with 36 total adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Do y'all remember our callback? When I say ATP, what are you supposed to say? It gets confusing, right? We've had several. So when I say ATP, you say energy. Okay? So I say ATP, you say ATP, ATP. When I say DNA, you say genetic information. DNA.
Genetic information.
DNA. Very good. Now, A with apples and trees. It goes with T. G with C. Okay. Give me a fist of 5 on getting this down. The third is called the electron transport chain. Second is Krebs cycle. Third is ETC. They both require oxygen. Where do they take place?
In the mitochondria.
Yes, ma'am. ADP is turned into ATP. Once all 3 steps are done, I have 36 ATP. All right, we need to move pretty quick so we can finish these notes today. I don't know about you, but I do not want to have to continue doing notes. All right, here we go. New heading, new ink, left-hand column. I want you to put anaerobic respiration. If you work out too much or get physically tired, cells do not get enough oxygen. This causes fermentation. Guys, how many of you have ever worked out or done something strenuous and your muscles get sore? Everybody, right? Okay? This is because of anaerobic respiration, which we'll go into here in just a second. Ana, the prefix ana, oftentimes in biology means without. Aerobic means oxygen. Okay? So this is why we stress those prefixes and suffixes with you so much. Because if I know my root words, I could decode what anaerobic means without truly knowing the definition. So still cellular respiration, but we're now talking about what happens when oxygen is not present in the amounts that it needs to be.
Brain dead.
5, how we doing? Awesome. So there's 2 types of fermentation. We're still under anaerobic. So the first type is lactic acid fermentation. It happens in the cytoplasm. And then, guys, fermentation is how alcohol is created. So there's actually also alcoholic fermentation, but this is predominantly in yeast cells. 2 types of fermentation. Remember, this is cellular respiration without enough oxygen present. The first is lactic acid, happens in the cytoplasm. The second is alcoholic fermentation, predominantly in yeast cells. We're going to spend most of our time talking about aerobic respiration, but you do need to know that anaerobic exists. How we doing? 5. That wasn't a whole lot to write. All right, so let's talk about that first type. So new heading, new ink, left-hand column, lactic acid fermentation. New heading, new ink, left-hand column, lactic acid fermentation. In animals, lactic acid makes your muscles burn, leads to cramping. New heading, new ink, left-hand column, lactic acid fermentation. This is the reason you pant after exercise. Miss Stoley. Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. And this is because your cells are trying to get more oxygen present through aerobic respiration.
Yeah, I think I might have like this screen is not showing up that much.
Okay. Do you need it right now? Okay, remind me close to the end. All right. I'm trying to do attendance without taking my screen down because I know some of you are writing. Let me see if this works. Okay, we're good. Everyone's present, Miss Neighbors? Okay. Okay. Are we all caught up on writing? All right, here we go. New heading, new ink, left-hand column. Alcoholic fermentation. This is the process beer and wine are made. This happens in yeast. So our bodies are not doing this, but it does happen to cells such as yeast cells. All right, this was not a lot to write, so let's move quickly so we can finish. We've got like 15 minutes, but I want to try to highlight and chunk today, but I don't know if we'll make it that far.
Let's not highlight. Let's just stop.
Are y'all alcoholics, guys?
Fist to 5, how are we doing?
2 minutes. Because you know we're catching up because we were behind. That's one reason I'm black again. Yeast disease.
Actually, I got one.
Okay, here, use the black pen for this. Oh my gosh,
All right, here we go.
Wait, should not.
Alcoholic fermentation makes beer and wine. Yep. Now, we're still, you don't even have to do a new heading. I want you to just write kind of across your page really big from left to right. Mitochondria is in respiration, animals. And then I want you to draw this. So if I were to draw this, like in my notes, like a jelly bean shape, make it slightly 3D, almost like a peanut, right? And then you put this like zigzag line thingy down the middle. That's how mitochondria is almost always going to be represented on a test. It's going to look something like that. I want you to know that the products of respiration are carbon dioxide and water. And for respiration to happen, chemical energy is needed.
Okay, let me get this down now.
We are very close to being done, which means we are going to highlight and chunk these notes today before we leave, but we're going to do it a little differently than we have in the past. I want us collaborating in our learning. And one of the easiest ways for us to do this is to read each other's notes. So when we are done, yes, sir. When we are done, you are actually going to give your notes to someone else in the room. They are going to read your notes, highlight and chunk your notes. And friends, as you're reading your neighbor's notes, if you realize there's something that's missing, add it in. If your neighbor has no notes, make me aware, and they will be receiving a 0 daily grade for Cornell Notes.
I wasn't here. I missed that one.
All right, is anyone still writing on this screen? No? Okay. Not done. Not done. New heading, new ink, left-hand column. Compare photosynthesis and cellular respiration. And you're going to draw a T-chart. So it just looks like a really big capital T. And then you're going to put these two headings. On the left-hand side, you're going to put photosynthesis. On the right-hand side, you're going to put cellular respiration. I don't care if you put the boxes, Cadence. You can just make a list underneath your T-chart. So this one has like boxes for each word. You don't have to do that. Just use the lines on your paper, okay? So we are going to compare these two processes. So on the left-hand side, under photosynthesis, it uses water. It uses carbon dioxide. It makes glucose. It gives off oxygen. It takes in energy from the sun. It occurs in chloroplasts. And it's in plants, bacteria, and protists. That's all photosynthesis. And then we're going to look at respiration. Gives off water. Gives off carbon dioxide. Breaks down glucose. Uses oxygen. It releases energy. It occurs in the mitochondria. And the bottom says, I'm going to draw an arrow. It says all organisms. It can't see that either. Okay, hang on. It says all.
What's the bottom left one?
Bottom left, plants, bacteria, and protists.
What?
Plants,
Bacteria.
bacteria, and protists. It's a fairly simple organism, which we'll talk about later when we look at kingdoms.
Guys, I missed a line.
Oh, spelling it?
Ow. I missed it from the
Wait, are we just doing this page of notes? Or are they just checking?
No, they're checking all of your notes for the entire unit. So it should start with cell cycle. Bring your journal. We're talking about 3 weeks worth of notes, planning the entire 6 weeks. You have no Cornell notes? You have, this is your cell cycle note. Let me see what else you're missing, because we have teacher copies, so when you're absent, you've got to come in. They're in the absent folder. These are your absent folders. So, that's That's cell cycle, but that's day 2 that shows
Oh my gosh, guys, look at this, don't worry, if you don't understand this, you'll be okay.
you have that one.
I can see the last one.
You're not supposed to go in yet.
I can't see the last one.
I can't see that.
It says, of course, in organisms. Occurs in organisms, of course.
Okay, how are we doing on this table?
It's occurs in organisms.
Listen, when you finish, find a partner, swap notes. You are to highlight and chunk only your partner's notes. When you're done, get your notes back, put them back in your journal in the front pocket, because tomorrow we're going to have our Think Pair Share, where we talk about each separate chunk with an elbow partner. Is that clear? All right, so I'm going to leave this up so that you can finish when you are